All right, welcome to another video from the Outdoor Analyst. Today I've got a fun one for you, and this is part of my journey to find what in my mind is going to be the perfect bushcraft knife. Take that with a grain of salt. Basically going to be, really, what is my favorite kind of woodworking outdoors knife? And that is something very complicated to come up with, because I don't think you can really find the perfect knife, but I think I'm getting closer and closer, just for my own personal preference. And today I have an incredibly fun one for you. This is not a new knife by any means. It's actually a new brand to me. This is AA Forge, and this is one of their old, I think it's like a woodcraft knife from them, and it is an old little woodcraft knife from them. This is, I think it is called the Woodcraft. Maybe it's an old Bushcraft model. I think it's like 10 years old. '01 tool steel, this kind of hammer forged look, a Scandi Vex blade on here, and honestly, absolute perfection when it comes to fit and finish. Think of this very similarly to like Fiddleback Forge. I would say it's almost on that level. It is that level. Much kind of the next step up from Adventure Sworn. I liked Adventure Sworn knives. You'll see this looks almost exactly identical to the handles that they use at Adventure Sworn, except instead of having just purely machined work up here, it's hammer forged, which is awesome. I think you may have a machined bevel like Adventure Sworn does, because they are pretty much perfect on there, except everything else on this knife is actually perfect. I can't find a single flaw with it, fit and finish wise. On the scales, this beautiful like brown micarta, white G10, natural G10 liners on there. They're just, it's gorgeous. Perfect plunge grind. Everything lines up immaculately well. This blade is just a slicing, dicing monster when it comes to woodwork. I've had a blast with this thing. And the ergonomics, if you like this style, it's very similar to like a Coke bottle style, honestly, except instead of tapering down up top, it thickens out, because it's expected that you're planning on doing lots of continuous use. So I actually really do like this handle style. And they leave a little bit of a choil up here, so if you want to get crazy close to the blade, like a Puko style, you really can. And then they also kind of blunt off that edge there just a little bit, so you're not going to slice your finger. Very cool handle style. I don't think a lot of people maybe know it as much, is because I think it's a lot more work to do, and it's not nearly as just uniform as doing the Coke bottle. But I think for bushcraft, aka I think doing firework, feather sticking, I really do like this handle shape, because it is thicker up here versus where most companies taper off. Whether you're doing like, a bushcraft knife, or, kind of like a hunting knife where you want it to taper off because you want to handle it a little closer. That's not what this knife is for. This isn't for game processing. Although being a Scandi Vex, it can do game processing. We're going to do the ultimate test when it comes to is it going to be an all-around awesome knife or not. For woods work, this knife is fantastic. I love it. Let's get some measurements on it just so people know a little bit more about it here. Total length of this thing, tip to butt, about 9 inches all around. Edge on here is going to be 4 and, what is that, an eighth? Yeah, 4 and 1/8. So about a 4-inch blade, essentially. Cutting edge, yeah, you're about 4 inches on there. That's perfect. That's kind of the perfect bushcraft knife for me. I really like this. It's ergonomic. Large to XL size hands, because you have that extra kind of space up top. It gives you a lot of room in the back, or if you're just doing that regular grip, I feel perfectly contoured, because it slims down and then kind of thickens out a little bit on that butt. It is a very ergonomic handle. I really do like it. AA Forge they just nailed this out of the park. This thing is awesome. Kind of a fancy pin in the back there, and then just regular brass pens up front. This thing is classy, and it's not like super over the top. This isn't a super steel. This is old school '01. It's handled very well for me. Sharpens up incredibly fast. Usually you just strop this sucker for a few times and it's back to hair popping sharp after you've been working for a long time. I love that about the old steels. You don't have to put a lot of work into them to reprofile them. Something bad happens, you get a nick in there. You're not going to spend hours getting it, back in shape. You're going to spend maybe a half hour at most, which is beautiful. I love that about just regular carbon steels. Definitely a win in some areas. Comes with just a regular JRE Industries sheath, which is cool. I know you can like buy specialty sheaths, but when you can get one of these, which is awesome. They last forever. They hold up well. What more can you really ask for? I love JRE Industries. They have that great dangler to them. So this knife overall, I think, is beautiful drop point. It is becoming one of my favorite outdoor bushcraft knives. Now let's do some comparisons just so you have an idea. Everybody knows what the Moore Garberg is. This one's taken a beating lately. That's okay. Size-wise, yeah, about the same blade as the Garberg. Much more of a drop point on the AA. Handle length, very, very similar when you get down to it. I think you have a little bit bigger handle on the Garberg, but thickness-wise, as you can see, it thins down at the top, where the AA Forge is thicker up here. So a little difference on the style. Both very ergonomic, both hand filling. I think this one is actually more ergonomic to my hands. It just actually fits where the hand pockets are, more along the lines in the Garberg, and I consider the Garberg to also be a very comfortable handle. Blade steel, actually, it's almost exactly the same on the stock. Very, very similar profile all around. You just have a little more drop. You actually have a little more belly up here on the Garberg, which is really nice. But this thing is just, yeah, nice Scandi, kind of a nice like convex on here. I think this does slice just a little bit better. This digs in very, very well. Ooh, looks like I've got some nicks on there. Yeah, I did some crazy hard work with this thing lately. But that's what's really fun about these is you can do hard work, and I'm not, terrified about this thing. I'm not sad that it got beat up. We'll do a few more comparisons. One of my absolute favorite little bushcraft knives, the Bark River Forest Scandi. Shorter blade by far. About the same stock thickness, maybe a little thicker on the Forest Scandi. Handle-wise, about the same length. Honestly, about the same all around as far as the handle goes. Very similar on length. Much more neutral handle style by far on the Bark River, which is nice. I really do enjoy that. And it's a full puko, so you can get right up to the edge, no issues whatsoever. You don't have to worry about that slight little guard. You don't have to overcome it on the Scandi. Both incredibly ergonomic. These do basically the same thing in just a little different ways. This is a little thicker at the end, but as you can see, it kind of tapers down a little bit. Very similar to where that does. Stays thick up front, but this is a little thicker in the middle, and it kind of moves your hand more into like a forced carving position, which is fine because that's what this knife is intended for. Very much, about the same length overall, but I think you get definitely a smaller blade when it comes down to it on the Bark River. You get a little more length out of the AA Forge. Slightly longer handle. Both great knives. Love them all to death. Not too shabby. I'll do one more crazy comparison just to let you know some other things that are out there. This is a Lon Humphrey Kephart in 3V. Beautiful, beautiful knife. About the same size yet again, just we're talking CPM 3V versus 01. Hammer forged, a different way to do hammer forging, a little more intense on the Lon Humphrey versus the stylistic kind of AA forge slash, my fillback forge sort of feel. A little longer handle on the on AA Forge, and a little thicker, honestly. You have Lon Humphrey's tapers, very much goes thick to the back, thin to the front. Interesting way to do things, much more of an all-around woods knife, but this is Scandi ground as well. This is kind of Scandi Vex on there. Big difference, this is a hunking, thick chunk CPM 3V versus a very thin, slicey 01. So very different ways to do it, very different brands, very cool knives all around. About the same length on the blade there. I think you get maybe just a hair more on the Lon. It's probably like 4 1/4 on there. Whew. Interesting knives. This probably also weighs about 4 ounces more. It is that much heavier and more forward base. This is more along the lines of a Becker BK2 or an SE5. Just think of that. This is insane, just the custom version of that. Interesting knife. We'll do a review on that for sure. I figured while we're here, let's have some fun. This is going to be the perfect all-around knife. It's got to be able to do one thing. It has got to be able to do some food prep while we're out there. So, thanks to the wonderful White Elephant gifts, I ended up with one of these like Hillshire Farms packages. Super cool. What's the ultimate test? Once you're done all the woodworking and you know this thing rocks at wood, it's great at batoning, it's great at feather sticking, it has that ultimate sort of feel to it. What's left? Well, what's left is, can it do food prep in any way, shape, or form? Because that is the next stage. When you're outside, you're gonna get a little hungry on here. And yes, this is very difficult to do. I'm wrapping my hands around a camera right now and a tripod. Makes things super, super interesting. So we'll have a little bit of a summer sausage here. Get some crackers out. See how this stuff's starting to smell really good. That's awesome. Oh, individually wrapped. How nice is that? Cute. Does it zip packages open very well? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. All right. And what's this little fig jam? You gotta be kidding me. Maybe I'll save that. We got some white cheddar. Super important, as we all know. Gotta have some cheese when it comes to this. So here we go. How does it slice? Oh, for a Scandi, although granted Scandi Vex, I say we're doing pretty good. Can we get pretty thin here? Oh, whoop, 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 bumping stuff around. Can I get a thin slice? Ooh, that is not too bad. Not too thin when it comes down to it. We are really looking at a near darn perfect knife here. Something that can do food prep. Something, ooh, that one came a little short. That's also going to be on my inability to see what on earth is happening right now. Ooh, slice that one a little short. Is that because I have a Scandi? Ooh, maybe. A little more focus on there. I think that cleaned up pretty nicely. It's looking pretty good, gents. This may be #1 knife of all time at this point. When it comes down to in the bush, woodworking all around. Something that can do food prep and that can also just rock woodwork, firework is pretty elite in my book, to be honest with you. It's mostly what I'm looking for. So we'll see. Put a little cracker on here. We'll dip a little cheese. Oh yeah, savage. 01 tool steel. The ultimate test. Anybody that really hates food, here we go. Oh, am I leaving the wrapping on? Maybe. Scrumptious. Absolutely delicious. I think that caps the perfect video to start off with the AA Forge. I think it's just the Woodcraft. Could be their Bushcraft knife. I don't know. It's an old one. I'm not even sure they make this model anymore. But when it comes down to a maker, and yes, I just have one example here, but this is perfection. This is really what it comes down to as far as a woodworking knife, a bushcraft knife. This can do food prep. It's thin enough. It also has just that right sort of convex on the edge because it is thin enough to do food prep as well. It's fairly thin. Is it gonna be as perfect as a full flat? No, but is it gonna absolutely dominate on the woodworking side as well and still be able to do animals as well because of the convex edge on there? Yeah, this thing is pretty awesome. 100%, this thing is immaculate. So yeah, right now, if you have a chance to get an AA Forge, I picked this up for about 200 bucks. You cannot really beat that. This is pretty much one of the best things out there. This was 40 bucks more than a Joker, than the Joker Bush Lord, or Bush Lore, I think is what they call it now. That is insane. So if you ever find some used knives out there from some really good makers, it is worth doing. Although technically I don't think this was used very much at all besides me. What a win all around. So, I'm going to finish up my crackers here. Maybe a little bit of summer sausage, wipe this thing off because it is 01, and that will patina like crazy if I leave it on there. Otherwise, yeah, I think this is going to be, quote unquote, a cast member hanging around for the long term for me. This knife is pretty immaculate and just I can't get over how good the fit and finish is. For how much I actually ended up paying for this thing, I would say AA Forge is a top notch, and I think they're worth their regular price that they charge on stuff. This is really, really, really well thought out, very well ergonomic. Worked incredibly well for me out in the woods. I was actually planning on doing this video outside, but it's about 15 degrees and it just wasn't worth it to me. Plus, when I got the Hillshire package and a white elephant gift for the fam, I was just like, you know, this is worth it. This is what needs to happen to do the ultimate test. All right, well, like, subscribe, comment down below. This is a very awesome knife. I'm very excited about it. I think this may be pretty much about the ultimate bushcraft knife that's out there for me. So yeah, I look forward to catching you on the next one.